Jude on the red, and starting things off, actually, mentioned that Zoe, well, not going to be available here from Moonblack as AHQ decide to ban that first away.
I am very curious as to whether we will see the set ban come out from the blue side or the red side this game, just because that has been, you know, super high prio in the PCS, even if it hasn't been super high prio as an actual pick. Just the fact that it's been so consistently banned since we moved to 10-13 does make me think that both of these teams have it as maybe a 3 or probably not 4, but 2 or 3 lane flex.
Do see, though, Hong Kong Attitude doing a bit of their homework, obviously. You got that Galio being banned out. That's been kind of one of the Uniboy pocket specials since the start of summer, as well as we saw it a couple times back in spring. Meanwhile, deciding to get rid of some of those just comfort picks on the side of HKA, getting rid of the Thresh from Tak, as well as, like you mentioned, the LeBlanc. So 2 bans being thrown on over to Moonblack.
And this Galio ban that you pointed out is really good at just kind of neutralizing some of AHQ's, you know, kind of gameplay in the early game, because you have the Hollow and Moonblack show on HKA. Galio does really well at just supporting his jungler through these early skirmishes, and that will make the mid-jungle duo of HKA have a little bit of a rougher time if it did go through.
Well, you saw the set ban come through on the side of Hong Kong Attitude. Meanwhile, though, that does mean the Aphelios is live and available, and it does get locked in immediately for Wako. Still one of the main 80 carries that does love to play the champion when it's left up and available, and especially for HQ. They usually funnel a lot of resources down into this bot lane, already saying this is likely where our carry is going to be. I like that takeaway, though, from Hong Kong Attitude, getting rid of the Syndra pickup for them, taking it onto their side to prevent that utility from going through onto an Aphelios.
You could lock the Ezreal here, or you could wait and lock a jungler and then grab the Ezreal later on, because you know for a fact AHQ won't take the Ez away because they've already got that Aphelios that you mentioned. I like this pick. It's again a flex. Not necessarily the same degree as Set, of course, just a top or jungle pick, but HKA, if they can play it in both roles, should have a good advantage in this draft.
And already kind of giving yourself some options to kind of go for some dives. If Hollow is going to go ahead and pick up the champion himself, might try and focus down toward that bot side of the map, because that's where we expect him to make his presence be seen. Usually Kartis is left alone up into that top lane onto something that he can be self-sufficient on, and we'll still have to see what his matchup is going to be. Let's go ahead and back into the draft, though. AHQ going to go ahead, lock in the Graves there for Kongyu. Not going to play the Echo like we saw last time around. And now for this mid lane, do you want to try and get yourself a carry? Seems to be the case, as Uniboy is going to be playing likely the Syndra.
Yeah, the Syndra here is kind of mad, just because, of course, you don't have the flexibility there because Aphelios already locked. He's definitely going bot. But I think they're saying, look, if you're sending the Karma potentially mid, we want to have a decent matchup for that. And as well as that, AHQ knew that they could take mid laner here and ban out 2 free mid bans, because HKA needed to lock the Ezreal this rotation or risk that being banned out.
So with that Ezreal getting locked in, we could always see that Karma go down toward the bot lane, and then you have a very heavy poke bot side that can try and push back onto this Aphelios. We'll see whether or not that's going to be the case, and see whether what Moonblack has available to himself, because like we mentioned, the LeBlanc and Zoe, usually those are the 2 answered picks going up against the Syndra mid. Being banned out means he might have to bring out something out of his back pocket, especially now that the Orianna has also been banned.
Yeah, mid lane champ pool looking fairly suspect right now. I think maybe we see the Azir at a push, but I'm not a huge fan of it for Moonblack because it kind of plays into HQ's style. It means that we're going to need to see some more early volatility from the side of HKA, and I'm not necessarily sure if there are that many champions still available on the board for this mid laner to take. You've seen the Jace into Syndra, which could be a very, very valid option here, but at the same time, Moonblack still in a bit of a rough position, and they're gonna hold until the very last possible moment to lock in a mid laner.
And with Wukong being shown, that likely now means that Karma is going to go down into the bot lane. But on the side of HQ, you saw their bans also through. It was also a fiddlestick. So 4 bans being sent toward Moonblack, really saying, all right, we know this team lives and dies by the performance of the mid lane. Let's try and limit some of his options. Now for Leaky. This time around, he's going to be able to pick up the Renekton for himself, going up against the Wukong of Kartis.
Genuinely, I think here HKA can just take Wukong. Sorry, take Jace. They've already taken the Wukong. Yeah, and then you run the Jason to either Renekton or Syndra, depending on how you want to play it out. Probably into the Syndra, because of course Wukong has a much easier time into Renekton, but will be really interesting to see how they choose to round this one out, as AHQ do opt for some hard engage of their own here.
Yeah, getting that Nautilus down in that bot lane can allow them to, again, get that depth charge in on to, say, the Ezreal or whatever the mid lane is going to be. And are we actually going to see it? We have heard, you know, the rumors of a mid Nunu. Probably not today. That makes a lot more sense, but I know you're not the biggest fan of it, Abriz, but it looks like the Azir is going to be the play here for Hong Kong Attitude as it gets locked in for Moon Black.
I mean, we mentioned it earlier in the draft, just as a very valid option if HKA wanted to play the scaling game, if they wanted to chill out for a bit and just kind of ramp it up in terms of relevancy over the course of a game. Of course, with Ezreal at 3 items later on, Azir at 3 items, it's basically a team fight victory for HKA pretty freely, unless Wako does 200 years things. But at the same time, you're playing into AHQ's style now, and this is the same style that dismantled PSG just less than 24 hours ago.
So we'll see if that's going to be the play here. Hong Kong Attitude, they currently sit 4-4 on their record, looking to sit above that 50% win rate when it comes to their first round robin. AHQ want again to just get a little bit higher into the standings to feel themselves a little bit more comfortable. A win here would actually tie them with PSG for second overall heading into the second round robin. So not a lot necessarily riding on the table for both of these teams just now, but it could heavily impact their standings later on, especially when you got to think about possible tiebreakers. Because again, our top 5, it's a mixed bag, and everyone can go blow for blow with each other, and we'll see whether or not Hong Kong Attitude can do it once again up against AHQ, after AHQ were able to take down, of course, the spring champions in the form of PSG yesterday, as we go ahead and load on into the Rift.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
Personally, I just want to see who's the fan of Unicorns of Love and running that icon. I wasn't expecting one of those today. Coming out from, I believe that was one of the members of HKA. So maybe we'll see it a little bit later on.
Mental warfare right there, because you're like, look at this superior unicorn logo. The AHQ unicorn with wings? Got nothing on this.
Exactly, all right? That's just Hong Kong Attitude saying, you know what? You're a red unicorn, there's a pink unicorn. Where is Unicorns of Love right now? They're in the LCL, right?
Russia.
Russia.
LCL, yeah.
Yeah, the LCL. Missed the good old days back in the EU LCS, but maybe we'll see them once again. Looks like it's going to be red buff start for both of our jungles, so we'll see some mirrored pathing and maybe see some action somewhere onto the map. I really want to know whether or not we talked to Skywalk earlier on this week for Hong Kong Attitude. He pretty much said, you know, Hollow always should be focusing his resources toward the bot side of the map. They feel like Cardis is able to be self-sufficient up in this top lane. And even yesterday, we actually didn't see that. We didn't see Hollow at all near bot side. He actually ganked Cardis once, and we didn't get to see a whole lot of him elsewhere on the map.
Yeah, I'm expecting a fairly quiet early game from both of these junglers, but of course the Graves does farm a little bit better than the Volibear. Also, the lanes are fairly non-interactive, regardless of whatever the state of that mid-wave will indicate right now. Just because you're expecting them to just, you know, farm it up. Wait till later on. Karma, Ezreal, Azir, Syndra, Aphelios, all of these champs scale better, and the only volatility you should see is in that top lane. Renekton, Wukong, 2 melee lane bullies crashing into each other.
Especially Cardis. He likes to play aggressive. Again, Cardis, for those that don't know, he's still a pretty fresh face when it comes to the league, but actually sits relatively high over in the Korean solo queue ladder, able to hover around Challenger, which is great to see, considering he has to play on something like 60, 70 ping sometimes. So he's a talented individual. We've seen it a couple times in some of his lanes, but we haven't seen him absolutely take over games just yet for Hong Kong Attitude.
Yeah, we had a lot of lofty expectations for him as well, of course, coming in to replace franchise top laner of this team in 3Z, who was, of course, at Worlds. And honestly, just thinking about Kartus right now, we have a bit of a skirmish bot lane, though.
Yeah, Tak able to get himself back to safety. That is, of course, going to be the exhaust shoes. M&M getting very aggressive here, going to get rooted on down. But guess what? Hollow, we asked, are we going to see this volley bear down in the bot lane? The answer appears to be yes. Flash on forward, actually, coming out from M&M. But unfortunately, he just doesn't have any damage or the cooldowns just yet on the Mystic shot.
Incredibly close to getting a first blood there, but instead just gets 2 flashes and a heal. I will take that, but it gives a lot of information. Suddenly these lanes of AHQ know where the Volibear is, and you're seeing them just push, push, push. The solo laners shoving it in because they know they're under no pressure right now, which is something that bot lane probably wishes they were in.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Hollow was starting to get a little bit greedy. He wanted to go for the Krugs, but was spotted out in the lane once again, so Kongyu just comes on over. And actually, if Kongyu is able to get it back, he might be able to race up for that second Scuttle Crab as well, as was able to take the bot lane one either way. So I do like the aggression coming out of Hollow. We said, do we get to see this volley bear? You said, we might not see any action. Well, get 3 flashes on the side of HKA and 2 on the side of AHQ to start off this lane phase.
A good amount of bot lane action to start us off, but I want to talk about our top lane matchup again, because I mentioned lofty expectations for Kartus in regards to replacing 3Z. Same can be said for Leaky about Ziv. These 2 top laners have come in to replace the faces of their teams, and honestly, they've performed fine so far, better than fine even, but will that be enough for the fans, and will that be enough for these squads to claim their positions at the top of the table?
Well, yeah, because like you mentioned, Civ currently out with the hand injury, not willing to play at the moment, doesn't want to wear it out, being rather safe when it comes to his health as well as his career. And Kartus, well, 3Z, seems like it's decided to depart from the team, and now it's up to Kartus to kind of take up that mantle. So we'll see whether or not it's going to be the case. Again, was a former trainee over on G-Rex before it disbanded. Leaky here. Some experience back in the challenger scene in Taipei, but kind of getting our first taste of him so far when it comes to this summer split.
Yeah, first time in a long while you'll probably see that Wukong come out ahead in a trade versus the Renekton, thanks to the tower largely, so no cues for Leaky to sustain back up. And I'm expecting this matchup to just go more and more in favor of the Wukong as items start to come through. However, we're still fairly early, so it's still Renekton's kingdom, as Volibear looks to stake a claim into the Graves' jungle right now. Hollow fishing with an aggressive... What? It's Azir! Why are you roaming with Azir?
Hey, Moonblack, we said this team lives and dies by his performance, and he needs to get on the board if they want to get things going, apparently. Who knows? But, you know, just get a little bit of poke there onto Kongyu. Just saying, all right, I got Prio mid, might as well do something here. Not going to be able to siege in on the Syndra too easily.
Yeah, Hollow now fishing over the wall, though.
Another hook, and here comes Hollow. Tether's going to land into the root, and Hollow, oh no! He wasn't able to advance forward. It doesn't matter. First blood goes in favor of M&M, and again, that pressure coming out from the Volibear early finally nets HKA a kill.
So the snare there actually reset the Volibear Q, but didn't even need to commit to following that under the tower from this Volibear. The Rolling Thunder comes out. Yeah, it's nice, it's clean. Doesn't need to go forward because his ranged bot lane are just locking people down. It feels like Kongyu is just late on the play yet again, but he's farmed up, he's got the biggest smite, he's got ult,
Wow.
He could take this.
That is teleport advantage actually coming out from Leaky, so AHQ are going to use it to at least secure the first dragon of the game. Does not look like, though, they'll be able to get much else here, so just trying to deny that momentum away from Hong Kong Attitude.
Yeah, HKA, while they get the first blood, while they get a good rotation down, answered immediately with a 1-2 punch from AHQ. No kill to be found for this blue side team, but the Ocean Drake for the extra sustain will help them scale up. And again, as we said, while they're not the late game hyper carries of Azir and Ezreal, they are still pretty formidable come the mid game.
And now with a Cloud Dragon, means either we're getting Mountain or Infernal Soul, which then I feel like just encourages a lot of fights around Dragon. So I'm looking pretty forward to this mid-game now from both of these squads, because it feels like I should expect some proactivity, as Eminem's just going to go ahead and try and use the True Shot Barrage to try and push back the wave, as both bot lanes looking like they want to try and back here shortly.
Yeah, so the thing about this mid-game that we keep talking about, these fights that are gonna come through, AHQ have so much damage between Syndra and Aphelios. The issue is, they need to be in close range relative to other ranged champs, and Azir and Ezreal are two of the longest ranged DPS carries in the game right now, and that means that HKA, unless they massively mess up, should never be in a position to lose these fights.
Well, you can see AHQ, they're not backing down, though. They've already rotated their bot lane up toward the top side of the map via the river. 5 members on top of the Rift Herald, and they want to be able to use that to try and crack open possibly a tower or try and funnel some turret plating on to Wako. We have seen it happen before, as they're able to secure that objective. Not really any contest coming out here from Hollow.
Yeah, so far in this game, AHQ complete dominion over neutral objectives. Granted, no kill on the board, a first blood for HKA, but hey, we got a Rift Herald, we got an Ocean Drake, maybe that's enough to accelerate us to a comfortable mid-game position.
Seeing now, first plate being taken there by Leaky. He's able to continue to push in onto Cardis. Actually been able to find himself a little bit of a CS advantage over the Wukong so far, about 2 waves, so not doing half bad. That is equaled out, though, down toward the bot lane, as we already see Eminem picking up his Sheen as well as the tier, as he's been able to push back Wako a couple times back to base.
Yeah, Renekton, of course, building Cleaver, while Wukong does tend to opt into the Triforce instead. Does mean that there's a small bit of breathing room where Leaky should have his first item spike and could go a little bit more creative on his tower dives. That being said, though, really hard to pressure Wukong out of lane like that because the W is so obnoxious to deal with, especially when committing to a hard dive.
Let's see another True Shot Barrage and some actual decent damage actually coming out from Eminem. I'm interested, is HK just going to try and go for the play here? Level 6 for the Volley Bear, so a dive is an option if they wish to go for it. We want to try and poke Wako down just a little bit more, but we'll see how HQ look to respond, as now Ysera is going to try and maybe path a little bit forward. Hollow still just sitting in that middle try, and there you go, is going to be spotted out by Ward, decides to back off immediately.
Yeah, gonna drop the bear repellent in lane there. Really big commitment from Hollow. And because they know Volibear's bot now, it's a sign for the AHQ solo lanes to get more aggressive. We saw it before for the commit for the Summoner's bot, and it's gonna result in a commit for some plates top, as well as a Herald drop, you have to imagine. Unfortunately, not only is Wukong hard to dive, but Graves can't auto through towers, so while this is plates, it's not a kill.
Still, though, plates are going to go back onto Leaky, and this Renekton's actually starting to get funneled pretty heavily. A lot of gold being injected to him early. And Cardis, we'll see whether or not he's able to respond here, is again being a bit afraid to actually try and defend himself, as that's going to be another charge at least coming out from Shelly here early, as Leaky just defends the eye, and there you go, second tier goes down to half health.
So I like this not only because are they taking advantage of the fact that you mentioned Kartis usually left on an island for HKA, but as well as that, Leaky commit his TP early to make a selfless play for the team to secure them that Ocean Drake when the contest came through about 5 minutes ago. And that is the team repaying him by investing in this Renekton, letting him build up a lead for himself, and just further snowballing that to the point where Leaky can now freely move around the map.
Yeah, he's unlocked from his lane. Cardis is going to be stuck in his lane for the next little bit until he's able to equalize that first tier tower. But if Leaky wishes to, he could just continue to apply the pressure onto Cardis and pretty much prevent that Wukong from really going anywhere. And maybe we'll see him on a teleport. But so far, top side of the map going in favor of AHQ, as Kanye is also starting to farm up a storm on this Graves, being able to outpace Hollow. He's just taking a little bit of a scenic route to the bot lane.
Chilling in the fog of war because, you know, he doesn't have a sweeper up. He doesn't know if this bush is warded. Has to be super careful of whatever comes his way. Flashes the emote for good measure. No, I like it. He didn't want to face check while his jungler and mid laner weren't in position to follow up. It looked kind of goofy, but that was actually a lot of restraint and discipline being demonstrated by Ysera on the side of AHQ.
And already see HQ, maybe want to try and set up for this second dragon immediately, already trying to push in the ward coverage into the river. See Hollow, though, still keeping his time here into the river. A lot of pathing coming out of this Volibear, though. Has been trying to make impacts in the lane. We saw him go bot a couple times. Starting to fall a little bit behind in levels compared to this Graves.
So, looking at that jungle difference right now, as you said, falling behind in levels, Graves farms so much better than this Volibear, and this Volibear has been forcing fights left and right, and that means that the bigger smite, the better setup, the bigger rotations, no chance of a contest around these neutral objectives so far for HKA.
And on top of that, too, it's going to be now Infernal Soul, which, if AHQ are able to get it off spawn, you're looking at about a 24, 25-minute Soul, which you have a Syndra as well as an Aphelios. They love having extra damage, and it gets a little bit scary here for HKA. We need to start seeing something come out of this squad, and it usually falls down to Hollow and Moonblack having to make plays, and it seems like they're just going to have to wait for these team fights.
So I just do want to talk about spikes outside of the jungle right now, because we're at that point where I said Renekton would have Cleaver while Wukong's still trying to frantically build towards his Triforce. And that's a good place for Leaky to really start to apply even more pressure in that top lane 1v1. But as well as that, I'd also like to touch on the fact that we have, you know, Uniboy on the Syndra, not quite got his Ludens. When that comes through, you'll expect the infed for Wako to have already been completed. And that's just clumsy relative to Eminem, because the Ezreal is so powerful. He has Mana Moon, plus he'll have Gauntlet by the time one item is coming through for his counterparts, and that means HKA, despite having a kind of floundering top side, should be in an okay position to fight around their bot lane.
Again, though, requires them to fight around Eminem, which is a style that they have done before, but puts a lot of pressure on this Ezreal to have to perform, and pretty much puts Moonblack kind of on the secondary cleanup duty to see whether or not he's going to be able to do so, as Hollow just again invades down toward the bot side of the map. Not able to get a whole lot else, though, as Rift Herald has spawned up, and good timing for Kong. He's been able to get control once again, and this is another neutral that's just given up by Hong Kong Attitude.
Yeah, they saw the Volibear was down, clearing the bot side camps again. Like, I have no idea why Hollow is addicted to this bottom half of the map, but hey, why not? And as soon as he shows there, just immediately, again, AHQ pulling the trigger on an objective.
Oh, that's actually one of our criticisms that we've had about Hollow. Skywalk even mentioned he loves to play him, wants him to apply pressure to bot lane, but they give up all these neutral objectives. They actually have some of the lowest dragon rates when it comes to like 3-15 minutes. And on top of that, too, we've now seen 2 Rift Heralds that have gone over to AHQ, and they've been able to funnel gold back onto, say, Leaky, like we mentioned on the Renekton, and now getting some gold onto the Syndra. So Uniboy should be at his break point, now level 11, and Luden's on the next back.
You remember how, in the pregame, you mocked me because HKA ruined my predictions for the first 2 weeks? Well, guess who voted for HKA to win this game?
I don't blame you, all right? At least they did have Red Side, which apparently has a secret buff when it comes to Week 4. We're currently 7 for 7 for Red Side wins. But right now, AHQ looking to break the trend here as you take a look at that gold graph. Now up 2,500 gold at 16 minutes.
Granted, the game is far from over, and we do have that late game insurance policy of the Azir plus Ezreal duo. Karma makes everyone else much more difficult to lock down as well. But yeah, it's really up to HK's carries to play it perfectly, because if you get in range of Syndra, you'll get one shot. If you get in range of Aphelios, you'll get mowed down. You need to use your advantage and kite from front to back to win out in these fights.
Yeah, because that's the thing about Eminem. He's got to be always careful of this Syndra, especially during fights. If he's within range of a Q, usually that means he's pretty much in range of an ultimate that'll come out from Uniboy and can easily one-shot him if he's not careful. Obviously, no MR in the build so far, as HQ, just again, controlling the top side of the map. Going to also pick up Scuttle once again. Infernal now spawning in about 1 minute, so we'll see whether or not they want to rotate that pressure down onto the bot side of the map.
HKA have fairly formidable poke and a good amount of follow-up if they do land some, choice Qs onto targets that they want to hit. The issue is that if they hard commit for anything in any kind of choke point, like around that Baron pit or around that Drake pit where you mentioned the Infernal is spawning pretty soon, they're just going to be collapsed upon. You're going to take a Nautilus to the face, you're going to get AoE down by the Aphelios. AHQ have a really phenomenal team fight. that is super easy to execute, especially in these choke points that HKA are currently funneling into.
Ooh, Ysera almost caught himself a bear with that hook. Is going to allow Holo, though, to get himself back into the jungle of HKA's blue side. But now, that gives the prio in mid lane back over to AHQ. There is, of course, the Azir Tower. Teleport even being used by Eminem. So, going to come down to one of these fights. Does Hong Kong Attitude wish to let this go over? Are we going to see them finally make a stand here? Leaky is already available here. Cardis has teleport as well if he wants to join in onto the fight. 4 members of HKA in around the blue buff. Dragon now down to 3,000. Teleport coming down toward the bot side of the river. AHQ jumping on in. Holo wants to try and do it himself. Gets reset, now down to 1,000 health, and it's going to be secured by AHQ and Hong Kong Attitude. They can't even force a fight, as AHQ are able to find themselves safety going back up into the mid lane.
Yeah, HKA, they pull the trigger on an engage, but...
Oh, geez, Holo is going to get knocked up, and he ends up bringing the depth charge on over to Eminem. Leaky popping his ultimate. I was not expecting HQ to actually be able to land the hook there, but ends up connecting anyway, as that won't be a kill going on over to AHQ. But now, prio in mid lane, as well as a jungler, your main tank, pretty much already at 200 health. That just means that's an easy second-tier tower if they wanted to try and force it, but HKA, decent wave clear.
Yeah, that would have been the second-tier tower dropping after the Drake got taken away from under them, but HKA, they TP'd Ez mid, they dropped the Azir tower mid. It meant that they had enough push to actually set up for a contest there. They set up for it, they couldn't execute on it, but it's not the end of the world. They didn't lose everything, except they're now on a timer for the Infernal Soul in 5 minutes. 4 minutes even.
Yeah, because what ends up happening when you have an Infernal Soul on a Syndra? That's some instant one-shots that will come out of you.
Stat checked harder.
That's when you get outplayed even harder, pretty much at that point. So that's a bit of a worry if you're a Hong Kong Attitude player or fan at the moment, as HQ, even though they have yet to get a single kill, and this has been one of our slowest games when it comes to actual fights. Full objective control coming out from HQ, and this looks very similar to what we saw yesterday when they played up against PSG.
Yeah, even got the 0 kills on the scoreboard to really give us a throwback there. Such a slow, methodical, controlled snooze fest, let's be real. But objectives are going down. I'm happy with that. It's clean macro, even if it's not the bloodbath we were hoping for between these two clashing giants.
And you're putting so much now focus when it comes into the later game team fights on Moonblack, on Eminem to have to carry. Muramana fully stacked here by Eminem. Some decent poke. There comes an engage, though, from Ysera. Depth charge going to be used on attack, but Holo gets instantly taken down. Eminem can't even respond by taking the knowledge down to half health. You also see Cardis over toward the side. Gets about half health himself by the Syndra of Uniboy, who's now come online. And the first kill for AHQ on the board.
Yeah, good turnaround from HQ there. It was a good attempt at hard engage from Holo. Just shadowing his bot lane permanently on this Volibear. Whether they're mid, whether they're bot, he's always with them. And AHQ used that to their knowledge in order to, execute the enemy jungler and rotate for a Baron.
And that is, of course, Wako on the Aphelios has Severum as well as Red, so it's going to go well, but let's see.
Moonblack.
Teleport does come out from Moonblack, has the flank available. Uniboy about half health. Leaky wanted to jump in onto the Ezreal, but let's see. Baron is taken. Moonblack needs to make a play. Goes for the shuffle, able to get no one as they all dodged away from the ultimate. Cardis able to at least jump into the back line, gets himself the first Cyclone, but that is all he will find after only taking down one member of AHQ. But now, turnaround going to come back in. Kongyu wants to jump in, get into the action.
Wako.
Holo, he just jumps up in the air, only to get put right back down as Holo and Wako unfortunately clash, and Wako is able to find his first kill of the game.
Yeah, Wako just free casting on the Aphelios. Right click, right click, right click, all the way down. As soon as HKA scramble to try and salvage that Baron take, they get destroyed by this damage. And look, Syndra QE and a Renekton is enough to stop 3-4 members of HKA in their tracks. And by the time the solo laners of HKA find backline access, they're alone, they're split off, they're killed, they're picked off. And HKA, despite starting this fight in an okay position, throw it all away on top of a Baron loss.
And you kind of have to wonder, was the call from Moonblack maybe a little bit too late? Did they want to actually try and fight within the pit itself instead of letting AHQ just walk away with the Baron buff to begin with? Now, after trying to force that, wasn't able to connect with any of the Emperor's Divide, and HQ looking to set up now for Infernal Soul, and with that, that makes this game extremely difficult for Hong Kong Attitude, even if it goes into the later part of the game during these team fights, with just this extra damage going to be now available to the team as Leaky's still pushing up top lane.
That being said, I think the Infernal Soul doesn't make a huge difference, because if Ezreal or Azir were in range to get one shot by Syndra anyway, they had misplayed. But yeah, HKA trying to contest an Infernal Soul and gonna lose their base for it.
Yeah, Cardis is able to get himself back onto the base, but Leaky's already continued the push, and we've seen, unfortunately, Cardis can't really contend with Leaky at this point. He's actually finished off his Death's Dance and has that over this Wukong. That's going to be the inhibitor taken, and for HKA, they have to decide, do they want to try and contest this, or Leaky's just going to easily take this inhibitor? Meanwhile, back into the fight, in toward the jungle.
TPs?
HQ, Uniboy gets caught out, has to go into stasis. There is, of course, your TP from Leaky onto your backline. Wants to try and turn this one back around, but it's not going to be enough. Konyu, though, able to take down Moonblack, and that's one of your big damage threats, but still, Leaky gets tethered up, and we mentioned this Karma can make it very difficult to take down these key carries. In the end, it'll be a 2-for-1 in favor of Hong Kong Attitude.
Both AD carries still alive, super
Oh,
important,
jeez.
because it means both of these teams can still fight.
Cardis gets hooked up, not going to get taken down though. The root wasn't popped there by Wako. Still 50-50. Konyu still around for this play. Actually has 3 levels on top of Hollow's Volibear in
No
this
smite yet.
50-50 smite. No smite available for either side. Hollow does have it available himself. Now Konyu getting into the middle of the fight, tries to jump on in. He gets taken down, and it's now up to Wako and the team to try and steal back the possible play. Flamethrower onto it. A nice hook comes in. Uniboy on the teleport flank, able to just clean up the mess, and there you go, AHQ strike back.
And it looked like HKA could turn that around. It looked like they finally found their fight. But the TP comes through at the end to really seal their fate. Wako untouched for the duration of that. Wako finds the cleanup, and AHQ finds the Infernal Soul.
And it all starts back here where we saw Leaky and Cardis, just fighting up into the top side. It looks good for HKA. They take down Uniboy. That's what they wanted to do, but again, long fights. It gets messier and messier as it went.
Yeah, if Azir was still alive, this would have been fantastic. But Uniboy, not going down without a fight, does manage to pick that one up on the tail end of it. And then AHQ, they kind of scramble because it's like, it's 3v4, and yet they're still opting into it because they know they can do this. Graves, Aphelios, very short-ranged if they want to deal damage though, so just getting poked down, while Eminem keeps his distance, holds his E, and creates space. Really clumsy of Kongyue to actually drop here. He only just gets smite back now, and still jumps into the pit for whatever reason.
But then that teleport from Uniboy is able to just clean up all these low health members.
Yeah, the Syndra really coming up huge, paying dividends for the rest of the team here as AHQ get their Infernal Soul, get their kills, and get themselves into a fantastic position if they're going to close this game. We looked 6 minutes ago, it was 0-1 on the scoreboard, now 9-6. What an explosive game.
And with that too, Infernal Soul secured. They've already taken down the top lane inhibitor. That's going to be down for another 2 minutes. And for AHQ, a 9,000 gold lead. They can try and use that now to possibly close out this game, and we'll see whether or not they're able to do it in a quick fashion while they still have these spikes available. You take a look here as well. Sword Boots online for Uniboy as well on top of the Zonias. You now have Rapid Fire and Runans completed for Wako too after that fight. A lot of spikes coming on in where HK, you're still waiting on a couple of key components for your comp to come online.
M&M, though, is pretty big, as we do see a TP coming through from Moonblack. They're fishing for Leaky.
That's a lot being used here for Leaky. The rest of AHQ coming around toward the side, realizing maybe it's a little bit too late. Konyu wants to still try and see what he can. Is going to get exhausted as M&M is able to find the kill. True Shot Barrage over toward the wall. Moonblack wants to try and jump on in, but you can just see that damage that comes out from Wako. He's not able to do a whole lot. Flashing on over to safety. M&M wants to step up, but this damn Aphelios, you cannot step forward without being put back down. Uniboy fishing for for some more kills. This looks identical. Wako flashing on forward. Uniboy, Kongi wants to try and jump in himself, but somehow Hong Kong Attitude are able to disengage, but the turrets are now going to fall in mid.
AHQ continue the pressure, continue the siege, and while all of that was happening, super minions hammering at HKA's Nexus towers. The inhibs left standing are gonna be taken down, and AHQ continue to push with their lead.
You say taken down, but one last auto attack was all that was needed, but I'll be frank, it's on 40 health right now. 40 health. Let's take another look here as they are able to at least take down Leaky.
Yeah, this was Moonblack's deep TP. A huge commitment. Leaky, to his credit, lived for a fairly long time. No GA on that Renekton quite yet, though. And by the time Uniboy joins the fight, it's kind of already over. Moonblack doing his own thing while the rest of the team are trying to, salvage a play and cut off the rest of AHQ. Kind of clumsy, and in the end, HKA can't really claim anything back for it.
But you do see there, though, how close it was to HKA getting almost wiped underneath their tower. Because you also have to, consider the fact that that was a 4v5, and AHQ were still happy to try and go for this, considering all the cooldowns that were wasted. And I think a little bit of a lack of communication, because Moonblack tried to make a hero play over the wall, but again, this team's fate usually decided by his performance. You've put a lot of your resources into Eminem, also onto Kartis now, where he's holding a lot of the team's gold as himself, but you're still waiting for this Azir to really be able to do his stuff.
You mentioned that it was a 4v5, and I think largely that's because Leaky hasn't really been doing all that much on the Renekton, but why does he need to when his team will just take the Baron and probably a fight to boot?
Well, look at that, though. Teleport is used by Kartis, and AHQ respect the Wukong enough that they're going to go ahead and back off, but immediately they just get Prio back into the mid lane, and if they wanted to, can just recycle, redo what they just did. We'll see whether or not Kartis, though, going to stick around for this one, it seems, as unfortunately no teleport means he has to stay if he wants to try and contest this.
And the only thing I hate more than support karma in this game is top laners that build Randuins versus no crit champs. What is that doing in your inventory? Imagine if that was a GA and AHQ could have ended on that bot lane push. Honestly, HKA pretty happy that they now have a little bit of room to breathe when it comes to this Baron contest.
Yeah, because unfortunately, we had that little bit of a misstep in the mid lane, not taking that inhibitor. Needed one more auto attack, and actually all the inhibs come back up in their base, so it gives them a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of a break, but break isn't going to last long, because guess what's up in 25 seconds? It's that Elder Dragon, which HQ have been firm on their dragon control so far. No real push threat, though, coming in the top side of the map, so they're going to have to try and make an opening here or possibly find a clean fight against HKA.
I'm actually deeply frustrated with HQ right now because, yes, you have good wards set up. Yes, you have good pink wards in the inventory of Graves and Nautilus, but you have the broken stopwatch, which, to be fair, is going to be a GA for Aphelios. Corrupting Pot and a second Ruby Crystal aren't worth the pink ward slot at this stage of the game for HQ. You need the solo laners to be actively fishing to set up for these fights. Otherwise, HKA can just do this.
Yeah, AHQ, they feel like they're a little bit late to the party. Kartis is over toward the side. Control Ward does spot this out. Leaky is known. HKA know exactly where he is, but he's going to go ahead, pop the ultimate. That forces out the Emperor's Divide, but Eminem has already been taken down by the front line of AHQ. Kartis tries to do the same. It's not going to happen, though. Elder at half, but guess what? AHQ, they have their eyes set on the bodies of Hong Kong Attitude. They take down another two members. Moonblack gets himself to safety. Teleport's going into the mid lane, and it looks like AHQ are looking for the base.
Somehow, I doubt that this Azir can hold 1v5, but maybe Moonblack can make the magic happen. The miracle mid laner of HKA is still alive, but how can he hold this one out?
Let's see here. Was able to teleport back to the base, but now here comes the push from Hong Kong Attitude, and Wako can just shred apart towers instantly, and for Hong Kong Attitude, unfortunately, they will end under 50% as HQ are able to take home the victory.
Live and die by Moonblack, live and die by Eminem this game. The Ezreal gets caught at the Elder Dragon, and suddenly the comeback story has been torn apart. The pages ripped out, the Ezreal ripped out, and HKA fall pretty convincingly to a fairly slow-paced AHQ.
Yeah, we've mentioned, you know, if Moonblack isn't able to get on the board himself or try and find a playmaker champion in any form from that mid lane during the early part of the game, it feels like Hong Kong Attitude just kind of slow down and deteriorate. And we even saw there was some opportunities for them to maybe try and come back into this game, but unfortunately, the trend has continued where they put all these resources into the bot side of the map, but they never secure any dragons. They fall behind, and then they force soul points that they have to contest too early on.
Yeah, they put so much investment into trying to get this Ezreal Karma lane ahead. Volibear just sat there while the rest of the map kind of just floundered. And here, Moonblack goes for the highlight reel play. AHQ dodge or stopwatch, depending on who you look at. And HKA just looked disjointed. Not only was that a poor execution of a team fight, but it came after a very, very free Baron take in favor of AHQ. Hollow failing the wall jump on the volley ult to boot as well, by the way, really cemented how terrible that fight was played.
And you can see pretty much the tail of the game when it comes to the damage. It was kind of up to Eminem to carry these fights. Moonblack, you know, 8,000 damage on a Azir at 32 minutes. Not the greatest look. And I'd be a little bit concerned here for HK. It just doesn't look like this composition works out in their favor, and it's back to the drawing board as they get themselves reset for their second round of our double round robin.
So I'm not actually a huge fan of Nautilus into range support matchups because he's really easy to harass, but in that last fight, Ysera came up huge, just targeting with the depth charge and following up with a hook onto Eminem. The Ezreal died with flash up just because Ysera found his mark so reliably and really cemented that victory in favor of AHQ.
And MVP for the game, it's going to go on over to Waka on the Aphelios. Not bad. Didn't get killed once, I guess. 4-0-7, able to output decent amount of damage. No, it felt like Kong had a really good game with the jungle control early on in that game, but you know what? Give it to the highlight reel plays, I guess, when it comes to production.
Aphelios, what more is there to say? As we said, the comp from HKA had all the tools to create space, to DPS from range, where Aphelios really does pale in comparison to Ezreal, and especially where Syndra does pale in comparison to Azir, and yet they opt to just smash their faces into this comp time and time again.
Well, talking about the jungle from AHQ, we're going to go have an interview with him, sending it on over to Pat.
那这第一题的话是你们已经完成了夏季赛的首轮赛事，那目前为止仅输给的是 Liab 跟 J Team。接下来你有没有想要准备如何面对到第二轮的一个赛事呢？
So you guys have just finished your first round of summer season, and you guys only lost to J Team, Taipei J Team, and Libya. So do you have anything planned for the second round? How are you going to be preparing for that?
就是做好我们自己该做的，我觉得每一队都会赢，就是第二轮保持正常。
So I think we're just going to do what we always do and get ready for every game, and we'll win every game.
你们在开季前4场取得2胜2败，就是没有到特别优秀的战绩，在社群上呢难免有一些质疑的声浪出现，但在找回状态后，其实后面的成绩打得算是非常非常好。那对于曾经质疑你的声音，你有什么想要回应的吗？
So in the first 4 games, you guys had 2 won and 2 losses. So there were some people online who were complaining about your performances, but you guys came back from that, and you've been showing off on the Rift and doing really well. So do you have anything you want to say to these critics online?
就是我觉得每个选手都会有低潮跟就是最巅峰的时候，然后我们就做好自己该做的，打给他们看就好。质疑你的人就不太用理他们。
So I think every player have down times and good times. So just do what you do and perform well. So don't look at these critics and ignore them most of the time. Yeah.
好，那么也恭喜空月，也恭喜 HQ 刚比赛获得胜利，也希望我们在接下来的比赛可以再继续加油。那这个看到他这也是算是自信的一个发言啦。对于接下来的比赛，
Well, looks like the plan is pretty simple when it comes to AHQ. Plan like they always have. Don't change anything, it seems. They seem confident enough they'll be able to take home the games for the rest of the summer split. Still have to see those results though in action, but a good start here as they're able to take down Hong Kong Attitude rather convincingly and rather heavy-handedly.
Yeah, definitely are, making a case to separate themselves from the rest of the top of the table, looking to, contest J Team, PSG. These top teams really shaping up to be a top 3.
Well, we're going to go ahead and take a short break. When we come back, our next game on the docket is going to be Alpha Esports taking on Liab.
CTBC Bank is Taiwan's top financial institution, but we're not stopping there. We're crafting an international brand and already have over 260 outlets in 14 countries. We are by your side, ready to embrace the future.